providing that migrants receive fair treatment and fair terms of employment, including equal pay. Sweden intends to maintain its open labor migration system and the principles of non-discrimination. Secondly, on migrant empowerment, which is built on the twin pillars of rights and obligations. For this, we need a legal framework that safeguards migrants' human rights and a policy framework that allows migrants to claim their rights and to access opportunities. These two aspects form the foundation of empowerment to positive development outcomes. We need to prevent and fight labor exploitation and discrimination of migrants both nationally and globally. We also need to lower the wage gap between migrants and nationals. Many countries intend to take additional measures, including my government, at the national level to prevent exploitation. This leads us to look at the recruitment process for migrant workers. Recruitment costs often lead to indebtedness. We need to step up our efforts to address the issue of corrupt and unethical recruitment practices, including excessive fees. We need partnerships with the private sector on this issue. For these reasons, Sweden financially and politically supports the development of the international recruitment integrity system called ICES, developed with the IOM in the lead. And this will be a global and voluntary certification system for recruitment agencies in accordance with a code of conduct. Broadly, this is broadly supported within the Swedish society, and one of our biggest multinational firms, IKEA, is involved also in this project. The Swedish Prime Minister's initiative, called the Global Deal, promotes workers' rights as well as dialogue with social partners. And I know that also Bangladesh is involved in this initiative with the Swedish government. Throughout this initiative, Sweden aims to step up engagement in order to make globalization work for everybody, including for migrants. The current magnitude of migration flows necessitates discussions on the global governance of migration, including multilateral cooperation between all relevant stakeholders. This means, for example, the UN system, the Global Migration Group, including IOM, the Global Forum on Migration and Development, as well as our partners in global civil society. Sweden welcomes and strongly supports the Bangladeshi chair, and that you have chosen to focus this year's discussions on this topic and a very timely issue. The migration-related commitments in the 2013 agenda and the Addis Ababa agreement will serve to foster collaboration between multilateral actors. As I said in the beginning, it's clear that the Global Forum dialogue has resulted in creating greater trust and understanding between countries of destination, transit, and origin. Sweden believes that the GFMD has an important role in the follow-up of the migration-related sustainable development goals. The GFMB can also contribute to finding improved forms of global governance of international migration for the future. I look forward now to continuing our excellent cooperation on these matters, and I wish you all my Bangladeshi colleagues and friends the best for the year to come, and I also look very much forward to coming back to Dhaka in December to attend the Global Forum meeting. Thank you very much, Mr.
In our journey towards making migration safer for the migrants. Now we have another friend of migrants, Mr. John Bingham. He's currently, I think for the last 3 years, he has been coordinating the civil society into the process of GFMD. But I can also add that before this particular role, John has been one of the advocates, sometimes radical advocates, on the issues of rights of migrant workers. And he has been a regular visitor to Bangladesh, coordinating with some of our civil society and NGOs on the issue of migration. So may I request John to share his thoughts, and then we would open the floor.
Organization that works in 40 countries on the ground with refugees, migrants, and internally displaced people here in Asia, in Pakistan, in Malaysia, in the Philippines, but very actively these days as well in Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Turkey, and Greece, with some of the situations the Special Representative has talked about. Yes, this is my fourth visit in this past 18 months to Bangladesh, and I'm glad to be back here again, meeting this week with NGOs, meeting on the issues, meeting with the government as it plans this very exciting year, this very crucial year, as the Special Representative has put it. We in our own NGO, a faith-based NGO that works with people regardless of faith around the world, works with partners around the world on the ground and in advocacy. We've enjoyed very much the leadership of Bangladesh in the development of the Global Sustainable Development Goals. We've enjoyed very much and been part of some of the leadership Bangladesh has taken in recent years on protection of migrant worker rights with the ratification of the 1990 UN Migrant Workers Convention and the involvement of the Foreign Secretary himself on the International UN Committee that monitors compliance with that convention. So we're very excited as an NGO and among NGOs for Bangladesh chairing the Global Forum this year. Now I know that there are many people in the room who have been involved in the Global Forum over the past years, many from the NGO and civil society community. I wonder if you might raise your hands if you've been either at a Global Forum or involved in consultations or preparatory events over the years. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And on the International Steering Committee, I know we have several members of the International Steering Committee that helps civil society organize itself globally on this. Saiful Haq here from Warby, William Goes from the Migrant Forum in Asia. I don't know if there's anyone else. But from the Bangladeshi diaspora in the Netherlands, Bikash Chowdhury from the Basug organization has been active, again, in the International Steering Committee that brings together 30 leaders and organizations and networks of NGOs, of trade unions, of migrant and diaspora associations, of academics, and the private sector to try and plan how civil society is part of this process. And we've been doing that together through all of the global forums since 2007 with ICMC, my organization, humbly working to bring it together these past 5 years with our partners. So I wonder just a couple of points. We as an NGO, ourselves and with partners, with many of you in the room who have participated, either in consultations or the Global Forum. Why do we think the Global Forum is important? The Special Representative again and again this morning and very regularly emphasizes the concern that there are so many processes and so many words. Why another one, and why this one, and why this year in Bangladesh? Well, we in civil society, I think I can speak for, I hope, many of us in the room as we've worked together at this, we think this Global Forum is important for change. It's not important for the process itself. It's not important for the opportunity to come together, even as much as civil society wants to come together with governments and figure these things out. It's about change, and it's about connecting for change. Connecting for change, and we'll do that this year. In fact, I think we'll see a lot of the word, not only change, but a lot of the word connect this year, under the leadership of the Bangladeshi chair, that has put the word connectivity into the central framing of the government agenda for this Global Forum. Civil society, we love that word. We have to connect with each other first, and then with governments. We have to connect as migrants and refugees and other people on the move, and then with the issues for change. But this is not the first year for the Global Forum. So the Global Forum has to answer the question, what have you done so far? Or in the expression, what have you done for me lately? What have you done for me lately? So I think the special representative sometimes is actually almost too shy, which is unusual for an Irishman, but almost too shy talking about some of the achievements of the Global Forum. And I'll mention just a few of them before we talk about what we want to connect to change this year. The cost of transferring remittances globally before the Global Forum started about 7, 8, 9 years ago was about 12 to 15% on average. Now it's down at about 7% on average, though in some places for some transfers the amount is still much too high, still 10% to 12%. The Global Forum has talked about bringing those costs down from the beginning, and we've watched that happen. And I think many of us in civil society think this Global Forum had a good deal to do with that. Work on responding to migrants trapped in countries in crises. Now Bangladesh, work to do better for migrants trapped in countries in crisis comes not only largely out of the Global Forum and out of the work of the Special Representative, it comes largely out of the experience in Libya in 2011, when among the close to 1 million or more migrants who were trapped in the conflict crisis in that country, there were thousands and thousands of Bangladeshi workers stuck with a world that hadn't figured out a way to help the people in that situation, didn't have preparation. IOM, UNHCR did a magnificent job in an emergency way, but the Special Representative and the Global Forum said, you know, we've got to be better prepared. We've got to put together the experience and the resources and the skills of IOM, UNHCR, and others, and be better prepared for when these things happen again, sadly. Another result that we think came from the work over the years in the Global Forum. In 2013, the UN General Assembly had its second high-level dialogue on migration and development. Only the second one. Now, migration has been happening since the beginning of the world. The United Nations has been here for 60, 70, 80 years. But this is only the second time in 2013 a high-level dialogue on migration and development. But there, the governments came together unanimously in a declaration that talked about improving the situation of migrants and migration globally. 190 or so governments in a unanimous declaration, a declaration many said would never come out of the UN General Assembly on migration. And there it was. We see again a unanimous agreement in the UN General Assembly in September on the Sustainable Development Goals. There again, we were told as recently as 2 years ago, 1 year ago in civil society, we were told, stop pushing on migration. It won't be in the Sustainable Development Goals. It wasn't in the first Millennium Development Goals 15 years ago for a reason, and it won't be there again now. And then we were told, oh, if you talk about rights for migrants, forget it. It will all move backwards against you. And then we were told, okay, but maybe now it's a little too late. But in those Sustainable Development Goals, thanks to work of the Special Representative, processes like the Global Forum, leadership from governments like Bangladesh and Switzerland and Sweden and others, thanks to work from the international organizations and civil society and migrants pushing, there was not one, not two, but 7 explicit references to migrants and migration in the new Sustainable Development Goals that 193 governments endorsed. One of them, Goal 8, Target 8, talks specifically about protecting the rights of migrant workers. The rights of migrant workers. Another one, Goal 10, Target 7, talks specifically about facilitating orderly, safe, and regular migration. two of the top priorities for civil society, now in the goals, unanimously approved by the governments. Last month in Paris, the COP21 agreement on climate change and the environment. Maybe we can say not perfect, and certainly not what civil society thought was enough across the board on environment and to save the planet. But with respect to migration, again, the first time ever we see in an international agreement reference to climate migration and climate migrants, unanimously approved by over 190 governments. Now, not all of that comes from the Global Forum. Some of it does. Some of it does. And the general change in the direction of saying there has to be international agreement that moves in a direction of recognizing migrants as human, migration as positive when it's voluntary and protected, and something that the international community has to come together on. Governments together, civil society together, and governments with civil society in the same direction. We've seen an agenda shift in the Global Forum from the first years to a discussion that was largely about economic development to one that is very explicitly focused on human development, the human being that is a migrant and his or her family. We've seen a shift that started from a position where we were told we can't talk about rights in this forum, and civil society and migrants and refugees among us said, well, it's not possible to have a discussion about migrants and development without rights. So big shifts and big importance for this year as we go forward. In civil society, we've seen the ability to shape our own agenda. So the governments under the chair shapes the agenda for the government meetings that take place usually in 2 days of a week. And civil society, we frame our own agenda for 2 days where we meet. And in the middle day, we meet together, the governments and civil society. And civil society as partners and as co-responsible, as essential actors and subjects in all this, we talk about what we've discussed, what recommendations we have, what practices we think create change, what connections we think are important for change. So just a couple of things, and I'll stop. A couple of things. Two dynamics about the Global Forum. The Global Forum is both global and it's national. You know, sometimes we can think, an international process is far away. Once in a while it comes to our country or it moves around, but it's international. Global Forum is global and national. In fact, if what happens at the Global Forum doesn't happen before and after at a national and local level, it's not worth it at the global level. So it's national. And in civil society, we come from the different nations of the world and talk about what we see, what we feel, what we experience as migrants and refugees ourselves, and what we think should be different. There's an inside and an outside to the Global Forum for Civil Society. The 2 civil society days that start the week of meetings are the inside process, and that is a process that my organization puts together with the steering committee. There's an outside civil society process that's also important, that often brings in many, many more organizations, especially in the country hosting the Global Forum and the region. That's called the People's Global Action on Migration, Development, and Human Rights. Together, as a unified civil society, we look at the same issues, usually the same way, and push for migration that's decent, for work that's decent, for all of it, development and migration that's based fully on rights and humanity. At the Global Forum this year in Bangladesh, there probably will be about 250 civil society delegates from around the world, as there have been in prior years, from NGOs, from migrant and diaspora groups, from trade unions, and so on. 20 of those seats will be reserved for Bangladeshi civil society, specifically, a full 20 seats. And I think there will be a selection process here in Bangladesh among civil society organizations self-selecting representatives to participate on the inside process. In the outside PGA, I think the process will probably be wide open for full participation by anyone. 2 words on the thematic push and energy of this global forum here in Bangladesh this year. I mentioned the word connected, global and national, inside and outside, before and after. We have to connect as civil society once again with the governments and with their intergovernmental agencies. Governance is important and a major issue for this year. And we have to step in as civil society with our responsibilities there, with our good sense there, and with our commitments there. And with that, I just wish us all a good year this year. I commit my own organization and I think the steering committee to working for a successful global forum on these important issues right in front of us in this crucial year.
Rather than looking at the issue, we'd prefer you to ask questions rather than going into a big analysis. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chair. My question is to Sir Peter Sutherland. I think you very correctly raised the issue of the rise of xenophobia and extreme nationalism in response to some of the challenges that the global community is currently facing on the subject of migration and development. I might mention, Sir Peter, that I've had the privilege of serving on 2 international commissions on migration and development. We were able, years back, to look at things rather differently because the climate was quite different. But we are now facing new challenges. How do we respond in particular to the challenges in Europe? And what can be the role of the Global Forum in responding to these challenges?
Thank you, Chair. My name is Zamir. I was involved with the UNHCR in the early 1970s and ICRC in the question repatriation of stranded Bangladeshis from Pakistan to Bangladesh and sending from here people back to Pakistan. Now I noticed that in this context I would like to add that while we have the migration aspect discussed today, I liked your observation that don't close the doors, open your heart. That was a fantastic observation. But I want to know from you, day for yesterday there was a mention in all the media that in Iraq over the last 10 months last year 3.2 million people have been made internally displaced and more than 18,000 actually have died because of violence. Now we have heard about migration, but migration across borders. What about internal migration and resettlement? Will the Global Forum be directing its attention more carefully in this regard? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Could we have another question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Afsar, a former ambassador. I would like to say that I'm very much inspired by and in between or before the remarks of our very old migrant man, Mr. Ambassador Shahidul Islam. The question that I wanted to say is rather definitional. We are discussing about migration and development is per se related to globalization. As